Now, I have seen no scrambling around or no indications that SCCA considers that to be an unfair start. Les just got a great jump, and look at Elliott Forbes Robinson trying to find some open lane. He's already passed about 8 or 9 cars, and EFR is trying to move through the pack.
He has got a long way to go, though, to the front of the pack, but he will thread his way through traffic as best he can. Into turn number 5. That is Les Lindley, running right behind the leader, Scott Pruitt. Elliott Forbes Robinson on the tail of the field at the start because of being underweight, but he is moving up quickly, but as I said, has a long way to go.
That is the bottom of the first hill here at Elkhart Lake, turn number 5. You began to move uphill as the teams, again, we're going back to that corner as they round that. They're working their way around this 4-mile course. Remember, the turns, it is said that there are 14 turns, but in actuality there are 11 turns on this, but we will continue to go with the traditional numbering system for all the corners here at Elkhart Lake.
Speeds near 170 miles an hour at the fastest portion of this race course. There you can see the leaders filing through corner number 12 and very short straightaway onto the 13th corner.
Coming off what is known as the Kettle Moraine sweep, Bob. There's a little kink there.
Smoking.
Lots of smoke coming from somebody. It appeared to be the 4th running Jerry Thompson, the number 77 machine, dropping some smoke out as he got out of the binders. Maybe just hit the brakes a little too hard, going into Canada Corner. They are rumbling through Thunder Valley right now. Turns 13 and 14, headed for turn 14. The last right-hander, the last turn before the 3/4 mile long straightaway. It's flat down there at that end of the racetrack, and it's a very tricky turn. You can see the front stretch is uphill.
Here comes the completion of lap number 1. It is Scott Pruitt in the lead with Les Lindley running in second, and Paul Gentilossi in car number 81 making a move.
And look at Lindley. Lindley is challenging Pruitt coming down the front stretch here, going up to turn number 1, and Les Lindley really has the V6 Camaro percolating here today.
Well, it appeared as if Lindley may have had the advantage to the inside of the racetrack going into corner number 1, but instead Scott Pruitt held off the challenge, and Pruitt holds on to that number 1 position, but Les Lindley is right there behind, and so is Pete Halsmer trailing in 3rd position.
All right, keep your eyes now on Lindley in that yellow Camaro. Lindley really appears to have the hot setup here early on.
Here he
Lindley's
goes.
got the line, Bob, going into turn number 5. Lindley's going to take over first place. Now Pete Halsmer perhaps will take up the chase on teammate Pruitt.
A very impressive showing for Les Lindley here in the early going of this race. He has grabbed the lead from the cars that have been so dominant in this series this year. The Mercures prepared by Jack Roush, but at the drop of the green, Lindley in the Camaro fell into 2nd position, and now he has passed Scott Pruitt for the lead. Lindley's from Anaheim, California.
Bob, you know, a week ago at Bristol, Tennessee, in a Busch Grand National race, we saw the emergence, or the continuing emergence, of Hoosier tires. Guess what Les Lindley is on? Yeah, Goodyear has been the dominant tire in this series for quite a number of years, but Les Lindley is on, let's not call them experimental, let's call them revolutionary. At least it's another tire manufacturer that's into this type of racing.
Now Lindley begins to stretch out the advantage a little bit on Scott Pruitt. And we also have a new 3rd place machine. I believe that Jerry Thompson, the number 77, has gone into 3rd. And now is challenging for, no, that's Paul Gentilossi in car number 81 that has moved into 3rd spot, passing Pete Halsmer. And now Gentilossi is right on the back bumper of Scott Pruitt. So that old Toronado, driven by Paul Gentilossi, is also working well. And so is the Camaro of Les Lindley. He has the lead at the completion of 2 laps. Back with more right after Jenkins, Larry Newber, and Gary Lee back at Road America in Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin for SCCA Bendix Trans Am. The leader is Les Lindley. Some misfortune for Elliott Forbes Robinson. Here's Gary.
Well, EFR was making his move to the back of the pack. Apparently, the engine developed a misfire in the Porsche 944. So right now, the crew has pulled off the front hood. They're checking over the engine. EFR is in the cockpit. However, we asked earlier about how they got the additional weight. We had alluded to the fact that he would have been like 4th in the starting grid, but the car was determined to be 4 pounds light after qualifying? Well, they've added the wheel fans. These are the units on the side of the wheel that actually directs the air into the braking area to keep the rotor cool. They say that with the plastic and the bolts, they can add 4 pounds. So he'll be legal, but it's really a moot subject right now because the engine will likely sideline EFR.
All right, thank you, Gary. On the racetrack, some good racing. We have about, what, 8 cars running right together on the racetrack. And here is a move.
Bruce Jenner, Bob, going to the inside of the number 65 car of Dick Danielson.
Oh, collision.
They appear to be hooked. I guess so. Jenner's in trouble. Jenner's car slowed significantly after coming around that corner.
He was hit by Irv Hare and then got punted off course and now appears to have suffered some kind of damage to the car and is not up to full speed.
Bob, the significance about the early laps here of the Trans Am race at Elkhart Lake as we go back to look at what happened in that last incident at the bottom of turn 5. Back to the store in a second. There's Jenner in the number 42 car. He goes over the curb on the inside. Here comes Irv Hare. Suddenly, Hare is right up against Jenner, and I don't think it was a result of the contact that Jenner slowed. Something had gone wrong with Bruce's car prior to Irv moving up there. Irv got some body damage out of it.
He was waving his hand, indicating to those behind him that something had gone wrong to the car, but Irv Hare just had no place to go. The number 63 car of Jerry Clinton is in the pit area with some heavy smoke coming from the engine compartment of that machine.
From the body damage, it's probably an overheating problem. There is Jenner unbuckling and getting out of the car. Bruce Jenner, no, this is not the Olympian. This is the Australian who has turned his talents to Trans Am racing the last couple of seasons, and he's really made a big dent this year. Of course, EFR runs in his stable. Bad luck for both of his stable cars today, but Bruce Jenner coming on strong in Trans Am. Bob, back to the significance of the early laps here with the number 8 car of Les Lindley taking over the lead. Those were the first leading laps of the year by a Chevrolet car, either a Camaro or a Corvette or anything. And the other significance is Scott Pruitt has been dropping back. A number of people passed both Scott Pruitt and Pete Halsmer, but you can see that Halsmer has caught back up to Lindley, and Halsmer is running a challenging second. There is Scott Pruitt, who has dropped back to about 10th position.
I think
the car is visibly going slower. Now he's coming in.
Yeah, he is coming in for a stop. So Scott Pruitt, pole sitter in this race, who ran second for so long, is coming in for a pit stop, and the Jack Roush crew will try to determine what is wrong with this Mercure. Scott Pruitt into the pits. He rolls to a stop, and the crew begins to raise the hood. Now, as we were read between the accident that we had with Paul Newman and the actual start of this race, they had the hood off of Scott Pruitt's car and were looking at it so as to indicate that the car may have been having some problems on the pace lap. And now here he is in the pit area with some smoke coming from it, and it does not look good for Scott Pruitt, who has won 4 times this year in Trans Am competition. Back to the leaders. That is Les Lindley still leading, with Pete Halsmer running in 2nd position and Paul Gentilossi 3rd.
Gentilossi, while we were in our last break, by the way, had a brief stint in 2nd. He had moved through some heavy traffic and had placed the Toronado all the way into 2nd position, but Halsmer outbroke him at the end of the long front stretch. By the way, during that red flag period that Bob mentioned, the radios were abuzz with many of the crew saying, we can't get the cars cooled down. Apparently, the turbo power of the 150 cubic inch Mercures just didn't take well to that unexpected stoppage after our first aborted start.
The number 71 car, which is driven by Irv Hare, there he is. Now notice the front end damage on that car. That's the damage that Hare inflicted when he had a collision with the Bruce Jenner machine coming up the hill after corner number 5. You can see there's quite a bit of body damage to the front end of that number 70 Hare from Peoria, Illinois. Irv right now in 6th position, so it appears as if perhaps that body damage is not going to have a significant effect on the handling or the running of that car. We'll be back with more from Road America in 6 laps into a 25-lap SCCA Bendix Trans Am race at Road America in Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin, and Les Lindley continues to hold on the lead in his Camaro. Pete Halsmer is running in 2nd, followed by Paul Gentilossi. Then in 4th position is the number 65 car of Dick Danielson, and in 5th, the 77 car of